On to some more sad stuff.
Yes.
X-Men 97.
What an episode.
I'm gonna sound like a melodramatic fuck.
Okay.
Oh, that probably needs to be bleeped out because it's probably right at the beginning of the segment, but whatever. Um, I was almost in tears. I don't know
Bro.
how, but the animation and the voice acting of the attack on Genosha literally had me. I was eating my dinner at the time because obviously a lot of this stuff comes out on Wednesdays. So I watch most of it while I'm writing my notes before we
Mm-hmm.
record. So I'm sat here eating my dinner for the night, and I literally stopped eating because I'm just in shock. And like, I didn't actively tear up or cry, but I
It
did
just
just
like
it
right in the
sat on
heart.
my chest. Yeah, it sat on my chest, and I was just like,
It was a slow ramp up that feels like it caught us off guard. Because especially after last week's episode, which was like kind of chaotic, but it was very like playful and kind of a fun
yeah.
episode with the whole Jubilee stuff. And then we get this one, and it starts off with them being like off to Genosha.
Genosha's joining the UN. We're a real
Then
country.
then
Mutants
it
are
gets
finally
like
going to be equal.
then it gets like you can tell it's like okay, we're getting some of the political stuff coming in, and then it's like ooh, romantic stuff. We feel for Gambit, Rogue's going all like oh,
I always feel for Gambit.
and we're getting to see some of that side of things, and then it's like all slowly builds up to this to the dance, like to gala that's going on, and they get this like really like in romantically intense moment of like Magneto and Rogue having this like dance, and you see
Which
Gambit get
looks
all
sick as
sad.
fuck, by the way, them flying in the air
Yeah,
dancing like that.
and it was like the fact that I loved the gala. There's like a secondary dance stage on top of the chandelier for the people that can like fly up there and blink up there. Very mutant-esque layout. Um, and it's all this like build up with this slight hint that kind of goes unnoticed with Madeline and Jean,
Jean.
like having like a headache thing. Not quite knowing it's happening at the same time, but you kind of guess that it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like you hear this voice saying, "Stop the music," and you're like, "What?" Don't know what's going on. Then your boy Cable hops a fence, and it's him shouting, "Stop the music!" And the music at the party has slowly been ramping up, so it's harder to hear. And it's all this like build up to then just fucking chaos.
Yeah.
Like
Essentially a nuke.
and yeah, essentially a nuke goes off and everything goes wrong, like in an instant. And you're just like blindsided with it. You're like, but everything was literally perfect a moment ago.
I don't want to get too sidetracked, but were you watching carefully?
At which points?
So you didn't notice a big friend in the sky?
No.
So on the night of the gala,
Uh
when
huh.
it first cuts to the gala, we get fireworks going off in the sky.
Uh huh.
The Watcher's in the sky.
Oh,
You
I
can
didn't
see his
notice that.
silhouette. You can see his
That's
silhouette on the
wild.
left-hand side of the sky, which I saw that and I'm like, is that just an Easter egg or something about to happen?
And then you see all the different X-Men, and you're like, oh, this is just a bunch of Easter eggs. Like the amount of X-Men, and not well, X-Men and mutants that they like showed us in
Seeing
one
Kurt
episode.
was so fun. It was so cool seeing Kurt again, man. I love that man. My boy Nightcrawler.
Oh, it was Nightcrawler was so well done. But like, just we got so many, and I feel like a bunch. But obviously, I don't know the comics well enough, so I imagine X-Men fans of the comics saw so many like Easter eggs of different characters.
It was really, really cool.
But yeah, it all builds up to this like right after as well. Rogue had kind of been like, "I'm sorry, this isn't working."
It's really interesting. I don't know how you feel about this. I guess it's kind of always accepted that Gambit's the one who should feel hard done by that he can't have a physical relationship with Rogue. because it's not his affliction that stops him having a physical relationship. So it should be him that feels like he's missing out. But they kind of turned that on its head, where it's like Gambit was
Yeah.
like, I don't care. It's more than about skin. I love you. And she's like, no, but what about me? I need the
Yeah,
ability to feel
I've never
comforted.
got to do that with anyone
Yeah.
other than Magneto.
Yeah. Which I thought was an interesting take on it.
Mm.
Also interestingly, Bo DeMaio, the writer,
Hmm.
came back to the internet for this episode.
Oh.
And he didn't talk about why he left, and he said
Yeah.
he wouldn't be talking about that. But he obviously he knew this episode was this week,
Hmm.
and he was like, "I just want you guys to know this episode is how we sold them on the series."
I can see how.
He
I
was like,
can.
"This was the center point of our series, and once we got them to buy into that, everything came from that." This episode is.
I
It's
can see that.
I've never seen anything in animation so beautifully heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is so difficult in animation to do a lot of things. Animation is a beautiful medium to itself, but maybe it's because I'm cold and dead inside. As a general rule, I struggle to get emotional at an animated show because there isn't a human face there as much for me to feed into. I was genuinely choked up just because of the way they managed to put across the horror of what was happening was genuinely heartbreaking. I couldn't believe it.
Maybe it's because I've been watching lots of anime over the last more recently, but it's like anime does a really good job of breaking your heart at times. The amount of times in anime where I've got like close, like heart, that close to tearing up because it's like hitting the heartstrings in several different types of, like, even in some of the Gundam stuff, and it's like, yeah, they've nailed it with this. And I do think it was like the slow build up from the beginning of the episode where like, and then it got to a point where, yes, there was a little breakup between Rogue and Gambit, but he was like, it's okay, I understand. And you're like, oh, this is a bit sad. And then he sees her from the bar and you think, oh, but Rose got her like cute moment. And then it's like, as she denies Magneto, everything goes wrong. And you're like, it blindsides you, and they wrote it so well. Also, in that gala bit, can we talk about the absolute bar that Magneto dropped with when the UN woman comes over and she's like, most other nations don't allow a terrorist or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but so many of your nations allow leaders to become terrorists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit.
They don't hire terrorists, but they let their people they've elected become a terrorist.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's a bit too real.
Yeah, he's cooking. Magneto is one of basically the only supervillains that you're allowed to like.
Yeah.
You're allowed to get their point. In fact, you're supposed to get their point, but you're supposed to go, no, but there's got to be a better way. I get why you feel that way. I get why you feel, but we need to try and do better. That's what Magneto's supposed to bring out in you. It was so just incredibly well done. Like you say, this entire episode builds up to the crescendo. It's the hope in Genosha. Everyone like, we are all mutants. We're going to get to be free. Versus the anger of Scott at home at the fact that he has to do a press tour just to be seen like a person while grieving for his son, kind of grieving for his wife, but not really grieving for his wife, and feeling guilty about grieving for his wife. And it's just all so powerful. And it's one of them times where I sat there and I was like, am I an idiot for getting emotional over this?
No.
And I'm there and I'm like, no, art is like literally supposed to incite emotion. And any art that makes you feel emotion is like doing what it's supposed to do. I don't know of much else that can incite this kind of emotion.
This is no different than watching a film, reading a book, and like the writing is so good that it hits you for real.
Yeah. The bit that I really, really struggled with was I forget his fucking name. Leech. So Leech was a recurring character in the original series.
Yes, I remember him.
And he was obviously back in this series as well. And him being so full of hope and not worried about the Sentinels. So he's like Callisto, who he didn't know was already dead, and Magneto will protect us. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
Then Gambit comes to help them. He's holding on to Magneto because Magneto makes him feel safe. Magneto knows this is all about to go wrong, and he just says to him so softly, "Don't be afraid." That fucking killed me, man.
And because he also looks over to Rogue and Gambit, who were trying to help, and he wraps them in, and it's like he knows this is about to go wrong. And yeah, it's that point when Leech is like, "Oh, it's fine, the X-Men will come," and the other one's like, "Oh, the X-Men don't care about us." As Gambit busts through a door, and you're like, "Yes, they're gonna sell him on like the X-Men are good people for you." And then yeah, it gets to that point. I will say that final moment. Also, before we even got to any of that, the bit when Cable like gets pulled back and he's like, "I'm sorry, Mum," and just that confirmation to her that it is Nathaniel, it's just like, oh.
Now, bearing in mind most of this is adapted nearly 1-to-1 from comics. I don't know about this particular, but like a lot of these storylines are.
Yeah.
Imagine, bearing in mind Cable's already a character.
Mm.
Imagine reading that monthly issue comic or whatever, where you find out that Cable, the badass from the future, is actually Scott Summers' baby who was sent to the future. Like
wild.
That's such a great twist, and it kind of sucks that we don't get to experience like that twist for the first time. But that's awesome.
Still, the final moment though with Gambit, like
Gambit,
that sequence of him and Rogue going full like battle mode was so well animated and choreographed, however you want to put it. But like that whole sequence with them like working off each other, him on the bike, so well put together. He gave me huge James Bond vibes, which I loved.
If for a long time my answer to the question "What would your superpower be?" has been super speed, can I change my answer to Gambit's charm? Because my man was fighting against the scariest Sentinel ever. He's come crashing through a roof to try and save civilians, and he's like, "Hello, mon amis." Just chill as fuck.
Yeah.
He's just lost the love of his life to the leader of mutant country, and he's now fighting for his life, and he's still just suave as anything.
In his white suit as well.
Oh, he's
but
so
like,
cool.
That final moment when he like absolutely launches himself to the Mega Sentinel or whatever it's meant to be called. And then obviously it stops him. And you're just like, no, he was so close.
Such a wind knocked out of your chest moment.
You were like, oh shit, he's going like full send. Like he's past that point. He's past that point of like worrying about his own life. He's gonna absolutely cook here. And then it just gets stopped dead. And you're like, no, he's fucked it. He's dead. And then for him to, in his dying moment, just be like, haha, joke's on you. You shouldn't have stabbed me. I'm going to just make you into the whole thing that's going to explode. And he takes it out with him. Was like...
It's just that line might be one of the coldest bars we've heard in a while. This episode's got a few. Where you just like, the name's Gambit. Don't forget it. Fucking cold. I mean, I try not to. I need to be careful how I phrase this because a psychiatrist might kick my door down and take me away. I try not to think about my dying moments. If I would like my dying moment to be as cool as that.
I get what you mean.
When I've got to have one anyway, eventually, I'd rather it be a badass line.
I get what you mean.
But the fading to black with Rogue swaddling his dead body is heartbreaking. Disney, Marvel, all of the companies that come under that conglomerate giant have not put out anything that emotionally powerful in years.
Do you know what I feel like the last time Marvel have put anything close to that is when Iron Man died. And we all just kind of were like, shit.
That was as close as, but I still don't think that was actually as powerful. I don't.
I think
I didn't choke up at Iron Man dying.
I can't remember. I would say
I choked up at Infinity War.
do you know what I think the slight difference is? Obviously, the Iron Man thing was like a build up, and it was like it hit hard, but it obviously like a lot had been building up over those two films. This was in like 30 minutes, or however long the episode was. Like this was intense.
Well, it wasn't even 30 minutes. It was only like the last 10 minutes where it all went,
Yeah.
shit, we've had 20 minutes of, yes, mutants are finally getting treated right.
Well, yeah.
For just like the world's worst imaginable terrorist attack.
Yeah. Honestly, it was such a well-written episode.
And the horror of all of them back at the mansion, watching the news report of what's happened.
Yeah.
Just beast. This massive blue furball who is smarter and more powerful than basically most mere mortals could ever be. Just, oh my god, in a flood of tears, he can't believe what's happening. It's powerful stuff. It's so powerful. And anyone who doesn't think that's powerful writing needs to grow up.
And we have, like, I said it a bit earlier, but the writing was incredible, especially in this episode. But the animators cooked once again. Like, seeing them all using their powers again in very cool ways. And definitely new ways. And, like, getting to see, like, Nightcrawler's animation style of how he blinks around was very cool. Honestly, the big Sentinel robot, the way that was, like, nuking things, like, you could feel the hits from that.
Yeah.
Like,
it felt
was
destructive.
So well put together as just a single episode as well. Like, the show's just been so good.
My prediction.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming this has been adapted from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of this X-Men animated series and X-Men 97 have been heavily inspired by the comics, which just makes sense.
Yep.
But I have not read any of these comics because, surprise, surprise, they came out before I was born, and I can't even keep up with the comics that are currently coming out.
No, you can't.
My prediction is Cable has been trying to, because he doesn't travel in time, he slips in time, which is very different, and the big difference is it's a lot less accurate.
Right.
Which is why he was a bit late before he slipped away.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a feeling we're going to get an episode set in the future, which is like a Groundhog Day type episode where he keeps on trying to get back to stop
the music. Stop the music.
Yeah. In fact, do we have the title list? Is there an episode called Stop the Music?
I don't know.
X-Men 97.
I think you could be right there. The way he arrived, and it was like, you could hear his voice over the music, and this like voice saying, stop the music, and then you find out it's Cable.
Oh, episode 8 is called Bright Eyes. That'll be that episode. Which means we've got 2 episodes where they are all still going to be dead.
Yeah. Well, the next episode's clearly going to be like the fallout from this.
Yes.
And then the one after is going to be some political, like, no one's coming to help us or protect us.
Well, yeah.
Or something's going to escalate again.
I mean, they are part of the UN now, which means
they should get aid.
The UN should be ready to hunt down the people responsible and deal with them. But we'll see. But yeah.
I can't wait for more. I really can't.
Neither can I. It's peak.
It is, and for only 5 episodes in as well. Like, this is doing so good.